LeBron James doesn't need to dribble a basketball again, but he does it before every game. He takes shots, he stretches, he warms up, all of that stuff. We need to take this, and I'm using podcasting as a specific, we need to take this medium it needs to be as powerful, as important as you going on an NBA court.
Are you building authority or just making noise? In this episode of the Podcast Interview Marketing Show, I sit down with my friend, neighbor, and longtime voice in the podcasting and marketing world, Matt Halloran. Now, We Unpack is something that every leader and every brand needs to hear today. That authority, it's just not earned on stage. It's built across search engines, social feeds, and yes, AI. Matt breaks down how LinkedIn, podcasting, and AI are all merging into one powerful filter, the filter that decides who gets seen, heard, and hired. If you want to be more than just a name online, if you want to be the voice that gets remembered, you'll want to take notes. We're talking consistency, content reuse, relationship capital, and how to make every interview perform like your best keynote. If you're serious about showing up as a person of influence, as opposed to just trying to be an influencer, then this is the episode for you. Let's dive in. Hey, I'm here with my friend, my neighbor, somebody I follow on LinkedIn, and he posted an article recently, and it says, "Does your LinkedIn pass the authority test?" I reached out to Matt and said, we got to talk about this because this is so foundational to being a person of influence. Matt, welcome.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Can you unpack that a little bit about what you were trying to talk about there with, does it pass the authority test, or even I'd say even the sniff test?
I think a lot of people don't understand that LinkedIn is really, by the way, the reason I wrote that post was LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook are now showing up. Your posts are now showing up in search engine results and AI results. And so if you are a business person who does B2B or your ideal target market's on LinkedIn, you have to have a amazing LinkedIn profile. It's got to have keywords in it, and it's got to have great, flavor text in there. It's got to have, your picture's got to have personality. And I know a lot of people think, well, Matt, that's table stakes, but LinkedIn is not used the same way as other social media profiles or systems. Like Instagram, it's all swipey, right? Facebook, it's a lot of swipey. LinkedIn, everybody's using the search bar. And so if you don't know what your target market is searching for, you're never going to achieve authority status or influence status, which is what most of your listeners really want to do.
Well, and I even look at it as, do you pass the sniff test where people say you are not influential because this is what it looks like, right? Because how many times we get an email from somebody and the first thing we do is check out their LinkedIn profile. If they don't have one, or, they're in a third world country with 7 followers, no, I'm not going there. And we tell that to our clients too, right? You're a podcast host. Before you have somebody on, before you introduce them to your audience, you go and look and say, is this someone I want to put my brand behind?
Well, and you really should be promoting your thought leadership. I mean, that's what it means to be more influential, right? Is you making the opportunity for people to land on your page and saying, that's my person. She's unbelievably intelligent. She's exactly who I'm looking for. She's got a good follower count. She's posting regularly, which means that you're giving back. A lot of people don't understand the power of posting. It's really, as long as you're not coming across as a salesperson and a schmuck, what you want to do is you want to come across as somebody who is a thought leader. I am going to give you as much as I possibly can away for free so that you can then opt in to potentially working with me. My old partner and I, we built a multi-million-dollar company for financial services professionals using that method, right? That's what works today. People don't want to be sold to, Tom, I love saying this. People don't want to be sold to. They want to be given the opportunity to feel comfortable to buy from you. And that is what we as influencers, as podcasters, as authors, as speakers, business people really need to pay attention to.
And I think that's always been true and always will be true. I don't care how much AI there is, people don't want to be sold to. And so I think they're looking for those referrals and everything. Talk to me a little bit about, you said that AI is indexing all of the
Yeah.
posts and LinkedIn, right? I always tell people now, when you're on a podcast, you're not just talking to your ideal clients, you're talking to the AI that refers them, because it's indexing that too. So tell me more about what that looks like, and how you think about that before you do a post.
Well, I think it's iterative, right? So the first thing you have to realize is that when you do post a piece of thought leadership, whether it's just a flavor text, a video, a blog, a newsletter, or something on social media, that Google, Yahoo, all of those, they're searching those as appropriate content. But the next layer of that is all of them are using AI. So that AI generated response, I'm a Chrome guy because we use Google at our company here. So I always get the AI response, and it's amazing to me how often it refers back to, a lot of it's YouTube, to be really honest, or a podcast. I don't know if people really understand the power. Still, I mean, dude, we've been doing this for a long time. The power of this medium, because if you're going to do longer form content, 20 plus minutes, 20 to 45 minutes, I'm not talking 3 hours, you can just add, distribute, deposit so much of your wisdom that is then searchable. So what you want to be able to do is you want to make sure that when you are a guest on a show, that you're saying the things that people are searching for, right? That's wildly important. And let's just dive into AI just as a kind of fun little side. Ask the freaking Chat GPT what you should say. Hey, I'm an author, I'm a public speaker, I'm a business person, I work in financial services. What are the most searched questions, keyword, questions that I should talk about on this next podcast? Tom's going to tell you.
And I love that you're trying to make every podcast stand alone.
Yeah.
I see so many people that will come back and say, well, I did 50 podcasts last year. And if you listen to them, it's like, no, you did one podcast, 50 different
55?
places. It's like, if I post daily on LinkedIn and it's the same post,
Yeah.
it doesn't help me. It hurts me. So always trying to be fresh there. And I can't think of the gentleman's name. They Ask You Answer. The pool guy, I can't, it'll come to me, but he wrote that question up. They ask the whole book around, They Ask You Answer. Just answer people's questions out there. Marcus Sheridan. We don't have to edit that out. I'll prove that I couldn't think of his name right there. But yeah, it's just like answering the questions there. And, and the other thing that I really wanted to compliment you on, Matt, is that you said you want to be influential, and that's where you start. And I want to be an influencer. I see so many people come in and, they've got no thoughts of their own. They've got no following, and their goal is to be an influencer. And it doesn't start there. So can you unpack that a little bit and how you see that and really how you've lived that?
Well, this is my life, right? So I ran an influence company for the last 8 years. And then now I just took a job as a full-time influencer. So let's deconstruct that a little bit. I wrote my first article, Tom, in financial services on the topic that I am well known for, which is human connection and client communication in financial services, in 2007. Right? One of the things that people don't understand is those people who are influencers, real influencers. You look at people like, I'm going to use Mr. Beast as a great example, right? Mr. Beast has been creating content for 10 years at least. And that's just what we know of. So many people just think that they're going to have one viral podcast, one viral social media post, and they're going to get launched. No, what's going to happen is you're going to be a has-been as fast as you were there. The goal is to keep consistently saying your message, your personality, have people get to know, like, and trust you over time. And you need to have a plan. When we started Proudmouth, the company that I still have ownership in, but I just resigned from a little while ago, our whole thing was to create a plan. And so we had 9 podcast growth tactics, which turned into influencing tactics, things like, making sure that you're having a lot of guests on your show. You need to have your own show. Then you need to go guest on other people's show, which, Tom, I still refer people to you all the time, brother. I just did it yesterday, right? And then what you need to do is then you need to look at what is the next level. Okay, so maybe you want to become a speaker. Okay, you got to do it for free. You got to do it for free. You got to do it as many times as you can. Then maybe you'll get paid speaking gigs. Maybe you want to do a TED Talk. I just did a TED Talk last year as my goal for 2025. I got 100,000 views on that TED Talk. I practiced it 200 times before I was ever on stage. Wrote a book. The book's right there. Shut the F up and listen. All of these things, and I'm giving it all away for free, dude. This is all free. I'm not making any, I made a little money on the book, but it's not an international bestseller. It is just more social proof that I want to influence you to make a deeper human connection with your fellow humans. Everything I create is all about that. Start with a core message, start with who you are, with your values and your beliefs, and then start building from there.
Is that the I believe, right? What you believe there. And I think so many people are drowning in this sea of sameness, and they just sound like everyone else. You don't know what they believe in, what their values are, what their point of view. And it used to be that, you'd go to Google and it would give you the top 10, right? AI is only giving you 1 or 2 suggestions. So you better make sure that people know how to refer you, and that those people include AI there. So talk to me about that consistency too, because one of the things that I see or I tell people is if you're perpetually pivoting, be careful of podcasts and podcast interviews, because you're building your expertise. And, if you were a DEI expert and then a crypto expert and then an AI expert, this content is going to confuse people where, if you say your name, AI people know who that is, right? And because it's been out there for 19 years, beating that same drum. How do you think about that as you're building that thought leadership and that influential piece?
Listen, brother, that's the hardest freaking thing you can possibly do if you have the goal to be an influencer, more influential. Number one is you have to find a niche. So I cannot stress that enough. So many people think they're going to be the next, Mel Robbins, right? They're going to have the next Call Her Daddy podcast. No, it's not going to happen. One, because you don't have the cash behind it, right? You don't have millions and millions and millions of dollars and huge risk behind that. But for instance, so I was just voted in 2025 the 10th most influential person in financial services. I've never been a financial advisor, Tom, right? But I have constantly been depositing my thought leadership into the karma, the logos of financial services for a really, really long time. But there have been times where I've tried to pivot. And the funny thing is anytime I tried to pivot, it always went back to the core message. It always went back to the core message. Like this book is Shut the F Up and Listen. It's about listening, but it's really about true, genuine human connection. And then I go back to the first article I wrote in Horse's Mouth magazine in 2007 called The Human Connection, which was a little itty bitty rag, in 2007 that I got an opportunity to write for. I started looking, and I actually had help from a coach, but I got out of the forest, so I could actually look while I was in the trees, got out of the forest and looked at the whole thing. And I said, okay, what is that consistent thing? Help one person every day, which is my TED Talk. It's about human connection. So that's what I'm known for. I'm known as the guy who helps you communicate more effectively. I did it with podcasting. Now I'm doing it in a new company, basically reducing the minutia that AI can actually handle so that you can be a better human to your clients. But don't get shiny object, dude. That's the thing. It's so easy to, try to chase that really big show. But listen, don't ever try to get on a big show unless your talking points, you're practiced, you know how to do this, you're really good at it. Don't shoot your shot until you got a lot of practice. I've done over 1,000 shows, Tom, just so you know. And so this is my medium. I know that I'm only supposed to talk for about 3.5 minutes. And if you notice and you go back, I'm pretty much talking for, 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, and it's that you think about it, Broadway, right? Even professional actors, right, that have won awards and stuff like that, their first performance of new material is not on
Eh,
Broadway, right?
no.
Chappelle does not do
Nope.
the first skit when he's getting filmed by Netflix, right? There's that warm up to it. And it's that same thing to get better with it because it used to be that if we put something out there at a conference and somebody didn't see it, good or bad, that was okay, right? But now it sort of lives on there forever. So you have to be conscious of that. Now, I know a big thing that you're known for is making the most out of all your content, right? And I'm a big believer, well, the coffee cup says it, right? More is not better,
Better is
better is
better.
better,
Mhm.
right? So talk about how you're reusing this content from a podcast into LinkedIn, all the rest of that to get those ideas out there.
Well, I think people just work too hard, man. I think they're always like, oh, I have to come up with something brand new every day. You really, really don't. So at Proudmouth specifically, we created something called the Atomic Content Method, which basically meant you would shoot a podcast using Riverside. We used Riverside, high quality audio, high quality video. Then we would take the transcript. We would actually go ahead and give that to our team of content writers, and they would write social media posts tailored to the exact social media platform that your ideal target market was. So listen, what you write on X is different than Instagram, different than Snapchat, different than, Instagram Reels, is Facebook, LinkedIn. So we would chop that up, but then we'd also use micro bits of the content and create like YouTube shorts or, again, Instagram Reels, Facebook stories, all of those sorts of things, organically uploading those videos to LinkedIn. One podcast, one 30-minute podcast can give you 10, 15 pieces of meaningful and engaging content. I think people are working too hard.
And it's that hustle culture. I've got to do more, 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 as opposed to working smarter. And I can remember at the last election, right? Politics aside, they kept saying Joe Rogan gets 100 million listens. And I thought about that and I'm like, there's no way 1 in 3 adults in the US listens to a 3-hour podcast. And we license a lot of databases. I looked at one and he gets about 2.5 million downloads per episode, makes him the number one podcast. Those other 98 million people, they're listening to the 60-second clip or the 90-second clip and going, oh yeah, I listened to that interview with Elon. Why wouldn't all other podcasters and all other guests do that same thing?
Especially like using your services, right? So I pay you to find me the right shows. And I interviewed you a couple of times actually with my last company. You came on our show. And one of the things that you always said was, everybody always wants to get on the really, really big shows or the really well-known shows, but that might not be the right show for you. We need to get you on the right show to get you in front of the right people to go ahead and get the results that you want. I'm paraphrasing. That's probably pretty close. But I absolutely love that. And I talk to people about that all the time. I was just actually the guy I just referred to you. He was like, oh man, I really want to get on Mel Robbins. I was like, no, you don't. And I was like, listen, you could probably get on Mel Robbins. Do you have that kind of money? And he's like, well, no, I don't really want to spend that kind of money. I was like, okay, so let's get you talking to Tom and his team. I mean, honestly, I was like, look, just talk to them. This is what they do. But, that's just such an interesting shift that I think is really important. And here's the other thing. If you do get your shot, and I think every time you've given me the opportunity to be on your show, which I'm incredibly grateful for, dude, I was prepared for this, right? I did all of my pre-game stuff, right? Which is vocal warm-ups. I was jumping around in my office. I was thinking about the talking points because you had said, hey, these are the things we're going to talk about. I wanted to make sure that my lighting was good, that my microphone was right. You have to take this seriously. You can't half-ass these performances, and they're shows. This is acting. This is what you need to pay attention to. If you whole-ass it, you're going to have more content than you're ever going to be able to use.
I heard it referred to the other day as being a lazy guest,
Ugh.
right? Where it's just like, well, I'll just show up and follow the host. Boy, good luck, right? Are you going to do that in Keynote, right? Be a
Yeah.
lazy TEDx speaker? Well, I got invited, so I'll just show up there and I've got some ideas. No. You've got one opportunity there, and that TEDx talk or that podcast or whatever it is going to live out there. You're either going to be proud of that and that's going to be a great asset, or it's going to be a great liability. So if you're going to take the time to do that, do it right.
I was using a service a little while ago. It's not a super expensive service, but it gives you opportunities to apply to be on a bunch of different shows. And I get inbound people who say, I want you on my show, because I've done so many of these. And man, there are a couple of times where I've taken over the show, not to be a jerk, but it was just, they didn't really know what they were doing as the podcast host. They really weren't paying attention. Like, they were looking off and I could hear them clicking, and I'm like, oh my God, are you freaking kidding me? You're taking my time, my persona, I'm going to share this. I want to make sure that, you really show up. And I know, and again, this isn't meant to be a commercial for you, even though, I love your services. I love how you really help people who want to guest on other people's shows be good guests. Because again, you said it so well, you can't be a lazy guest. You've got to show up. You got to be warmed up. You've got to be, this is a show, everybody. Lights, camera, action. Let's go. And if you're not, you just pissed away an hour of your time and an hour of the other person's time. Why would you want to do that, man? We're not on this earth for that long. Let's go.
And it used to be that you were talking into a void, right? It was like into the darkness. There was no feedback. And at least on LinkedIn, you've got analytics, right? You can look and say, well, this interview did really well, or excuse me, this post did very well, whatever it was. But now we're able to take the interviews, take the transcripts, and analyze those. And my team does it for me. And Matt, it's humbling when they come back and say, Tom, you talked 26% faster than the host. Slow down a little bit. Or like you said before, it should be 3, maybe 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
When they come back and say, your longest monologue was 6.5 minutes, might want to shorten up those true false. All of those things, because you want to get better and better on this.
Kaizen, brother, graduous continual improvement. Every time I'm on a show, I want to know what I can do better. And in fact, so I ran a podcasting company, as you know, for financial services professionals. And I would be on some of our clients' shows. And at the end of the show, because I'm going to do this with you, I'm going to say, okay, what could I have done better? And they're like, well, you do this for a living. Yeah, I'm a professional. Just like any other professional, I want to continuously improve. You look at professional basketball players, dude. LeBron James doesn't need to dribble a basketball again, but he does it before every game. He takes shots, he stretches, he warms up, all of that stuff. We need to take this, and I'm using podcasting as a specific, we need to take this medium it needs to be as powerful, as important as you going on an NBA court, right? Again, I have a whole pregame, dude, that I do before every single Solitaire show, whether I'm in your seat, brother, or whether I'm in this seat. And by the way, I prefer your seat more than this one, because I like to be the one asking the questions. But yeah, you got to take this stuff seriously, because again, if not, you're just wasting time and money.
And it's like, if you want to be a leader, you have to lead. And from that standpoint, the people that are at the top of their game in any industry are those ones that want to be their best, right? There's those different levels of that was adequate, right? It wasn't so bad that they won't post it, right? There wasn't misspellings in the post. Well, that's adequate, right? That's table stakes. And then, well, I'm the best. Well, I'm the best in what pond, right? You want to always be the one that says, I want to be my best. And that's that Kaizen of always improving. So as you look forward here, I mean, the world is changing, right? With AI, how people find things, but in the same way, the world's not changing. So what do you see is consistent that we've got to double down on? And what's the things that we need to be looking for that are going to be different?
So one thing that I think you really need to double down on is you need to know yourself, and you need to lean into who you are and what makes you fundamentally unique and different. And that's where everything starts becoming jazz music instead of chaos, right? So The other thing that I think is never, ever, ever going to change is human connection. Um, People still like to see you physically. They like to be in your presence. Um, Live podcasting, by the way, is still in our industry is huge at events. They're doing live shows from main stage, dude, which by the way, the audio is terrible, but whatever. It's because people like to be in the presence of this medium, and really any sort of medium. So please don't ever forget that even though that you and I are 20 minutes from each other, right? And we're on this screen here. I still like seeing you and your wife, right? And we've had a coffee a couple times. I love that. So the human connection is really important. But I do think one of the major revolutions that is happening is the AI revolution. And I think a lot of people are scared of it. I think there's good reason to be scared of it. But I also think that it is such an unbelievable opportunity. We have access to the largest brain that has ever existed in the history of humanity. And if you're not leaning into that, I'm going to just give one quick AI pointer that really was a game changer for me. Whatever industry you're in, create an advisory board. So in ChatGPT, you create a project. So I'm just going to use GPT because that's the one I use. You create a project. And then let's say I'm going to do something easy. You're a marketer, right? And you want to go ahead and write the greatest marketing copy you can ever for either yourself or your clients. Create an advisory board and ask AI, who are the greatest, most successful be specific, content marketers. I want you to create an advisory board so that when I create a piece of content, you can tell me what Simon Sinek and, all of these people are going to say about this specific piece of content. And it will do that for you. It's not going to necessarily write it for you because I don't think that that's necessarily appropriate. I want you to create the content, but getting that feedback is so unbelievably powerful. And I think that's the revolution. I'm hoping that the minutia that all of us have to deal with as humans is going to be in the next 3 to 5 years is going to be taken care of by automation or robots. You and I are roughly the same age. I've been wanting to robots since I was like 3, dude. And now, I don't know if you saw the General Dynamics, the new robot that they just unleashed at I'm saying unleashed for a reason, but they just released at CES. It's not far away.
I agree with you on there, and there's a lot of problems in the world, but there's no better time to be alive. And one of the things that you said there that is so interesting is that feedback loop. And I encourage people always to listen to their interviews, to read their posts again, read the comments on there. And too often, your friends and family want you to be happy, right? So they're going to tell you, "Oh, that was great," right? That was great, right? You could hire a consultant, and they may not be totally blunt with you, right? Because they don't want to get fired. And one of the things I love is being able to go to that third party. If AI tells me I'm ugly, right? I don't take it as personally. And so I think that's a great thing to always get better, to ask that third person what was good, what was bad, and have them be very, very honest with you, because that's how the best get better. Yeah. So how can people get in touch with you, right? What's that next step? If they want to learn more, if they don't know Matt, they should. What's that next step?
Well, I live on LinkedIn. I mean, that's really because my ideal target market's there. If you just want to keep your fingers to the pulse of what it's like to follow somebody who has gone through the influencer journey, and then landed in a place where I'm being paid as a full-time influencer in the niche that I'm specifically focused in, I'm always talking about different ways that you can hack that. Because, Tom, it took me 20 years, dude. It took me 20 years, man, from the first article I wrote till today. And I know I could have done it faster, better, smarter, right? And so that's one of the things that I talk about a lot on LinkedIn. So that's probably the best place for people to find me.
Excellent. Well, what's ordinary to you is amazing to others. And one thing I would add here too is the power of voice, right? I remember years ago reading a book by Svensson. He's a futurist out of Stanford. And he said, the future is vivid audio. And I was listening to the audiobook and I had to rewind it a few times because I thought I missed it. I thought, no, it's video. But if this weekend I go out, you're not going to see me in a sport coat and shirt, right? I don't know if I'll see you in the black hat, but I tell you what, if it's at Lowe's, if it's at the coffee place, whatever, if I hear your voice, I'm going to know that. And there's that, and it'll make me happy when I hear that. And I think that's the power of sharing through audio, through these videos, through podcasts. And I know there's a lot of people that would say the same thing. If they heard Matt's voice, they would smile. That's what I consider being an influencer.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Thank you. All the best. There's a big difference between being an influencer and being influential. And today, Matt Halloran reminded us why this distinction matters. The conversation taught us how to think about modern authority building, from optimizing your LinkedIn profile to making every podcast interview an evergreen asset. Matt just didn't give us advice. He gave us a system. And the best part, you don't need more content. You need better reuse of the content you already have. Podcast interviews, they're just the beginning. They're the asset that you can chop, clip, share them, and let your voice live in every corner of the market. Here's your next step. Take a look at your last podcast interview or last LinkedIn post. Would it pass that authority sniff test? If not, don't worry. Start today. Get clear on your message. Lean into consistency. And remember, what's ordinary to you is amazing to others. You just need to find the time and share it in the right light. Because being heard, it's no longer optional. It's how we lead today.